Yeah, I was going to say this. I thought CJ Stroud was bad for 75% of the game.
I wouldn't say bad. He wasn't as CJ Stroud as he normally was, in my opinion. He missed a couple, and they dropped a couple.
The fumbles, the batted balls.
But that Penn State –
the fumble is something that has the fumble, that's 2 in a row.
You're talking about in the red zone, the sack?
No. Well, so, okay, I've got a couple things. And I want to get both of you guys. You guys know more about quarterback play than I do. But I got 2 things. One, the fumble, because it looked very similar to the fumble that he had against Iowa. The Iowa fumble obviously led to the touchdown for Iowa, but this one led to a strip sack that ultimately was another turnover. But the other thing for me, and it seemed to course correct after halftime, and especially later in the game, but the way that he gives ground with pressure, instead of stepping up, instead of moving in, instead of using some of that athleticism that we've seen him have, I don't know. I don't know how you fix that, honestly.
Well,
so honestly, I'm asking you guys who know way more, because he gives so much ground.
He's not a great athlete. I think he's like a good athlete, whatever the good line is. His feet are just on the other side of a good athlete, and he's not in those positions that often.
Sure.
And they got so much stuff rolling. I don't think that part of his game, which, a really good defense like Georgia could press that out. I just think it only happens in flashes. I don't think it's enough of a it just doesn't have enough of an occurrence. Yeah, it's not a big enough.
He doesn't. Yeah, but I do agree with you, Felder. Like, I think if he learned how to move up in the pocket and press the defense in that manner, as opposed to trying to capture edges all day long, he'd see a lot. I think he'd find more completions without having to take hits from that way. And I think he'd also find more lanes where he can get down, go get 6, 7, 8 yards, get down and keep it moving. But yeah, no, I was impressed with the way CJ played. I thought he answered the bell in some bigger moments. He just didn't have that. There wasn't like that sexy, flashy, like consistent 4 quarters of just.
It wasn't wire.
I think there was
wire to wire.
There was this, but ultimately, like when they needed him, I thought he answered the bell.
Absolutely agree. I think his game shot up when they needed him, and you could see it when he was there on the sidelines, and he was like, "Okay, we're gonna do."
Yeah.
And they showed that hero shot of him, and then he came in, and guess what they did? Boom, 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 boom. So, Penn State guy, give me your read on the game.
Well, so for me, I thought Penn State matched up better against Ohio State than they did against the Michigan team from a personnel standpoint, the way they were built. George, you and I talked about this a little bit today, and I've talked about this at length with Josh Perry. If you guys want to listen into that, because he brings a really unique perspective as an Ohio State guy as well. But I think Penn State has gone more to like trying to match up with the East-West, longer, freakier, smaller, more athletic guys that can run sideline to sideline, and not really built for a team that's going to say, "Hey, we're 320, 325 across the board. We're coming this way." They're playing the up and down NBA style run and gun type basketball game. That's how Penn State's playing defensively. That's how they built their team. That's how they built their roster. At the end of the day, George, I think what you were getting at is I think Ohio State has shown, and I don't think Ohio State's anywhere near where they need to be offensively in terms of consistent execution at this point in time in the season to talk about national championship and things like that. Do they have the potential? 1,000%. Something we still haven't talked about is we haven't seen Jackson Smith and Jigba since like the first half of the freaking Notre Dame game this year. So like you add this guy to the way that Marvin Harrison Jr. has started to emerge and a few of the other guys they have, like you're talking about a completely different ball game, in my opinion. But like I said, I'll shelf that for right now. Ohio State defensively is leaps and bounds better than they were last year. They're a much more complete football team, both sides of the football, all 3 phases. And I think, George, what Ohio State has that Michigan doesn't necessarily have is they can play from behind. They have that press you offensively where we're showing a propensity to run the football. We're not where we need to be, but we've shown flashes. We've had games where we've ran it up people's asses. We've had games where we've had to kind of take our lumps, go for 3 yards a pop, and have everybody else start making plays for us, whether that be defensively or our receivers. they're showing a propensity and a growth in the right direction for me. And I think that they're a team that has a lot going for them, and they just are figuring out ways how to make it all come together. And that's the beauty of it, is they got time to do it, and they're still winning football games by doing it. So I think we still have a lot to see out of this Ohio State team. And then Penn State, like I said, I think they fought. I just think it ultimately came down to you were running against a bigger, faster, stronger horse. You kept up for as long as you could, but sometimes shit happens. I think there's some decisions, some things like that happen throughout the game, that momentum swings, whatever. But at the end of the day, I just think they got outlasted.
Before we move, so this is setting up to be one of the great all-time clashes. Michigan, Ohio State, with Michigan coming in with the last win. Both going to be undefeated. It feels like the fate of the world's going to be there. And there's a realistic chance both could squeeze on into the finals, into the playoffs, no matter how the ending is.